darkness will consume the world and light will create it. Isn't that right? It is a widespread belief these days that happiness can be bought with money. Consumer society promotes the idea that possession of material goods and the ability to buy what one wants will bring happiness and satisfaction to a person. This approach has certain grounds. As noted by the American psychologist Abraham Maslow, a person has a hierarchy of needs, ranging from basic physiological needs, food, shelter, clothing, to higher order needs such as self-actualization. Sufficient material wealth allows us to satisfy these basic needs, which is an important factor in our subjective sense of happiness and well-being. However, many thinkers are critical of the identification of happiness with material prosperity. As Erich Fromm wrote in To Have or To Be, the cult of possessing things often becomes an escape from genuine human relationships and self-realization. Philosopher Bertrand Russell, in his essay In Praise of Idleness, also noted that the accumulation of wealth brings nothing but disappointment in the end. In his opinion, true happiness lies not in the pursuit of material wealth, but in the development of spiritual and creative sides of the personality.
May our soul find harmony amidst the contradictions of existence that torment it and reconcile light and darkness in the radiance of love.
The desire to be understood, accepted, and heard is deeply rooted in human nature. But is absolute empathy achievable in practice? The pessimistic view says that complete empathy with the inner world of another person is impossible in principle. As Arthur Schopenhauer noted, each individual has his or her own will and unique view of the world. Even the closest people, such as parents and children, spouses and friends, remain in some sense strangers to each other. This position finds confirmation in the postmodern philosophy of the 20th century. For example, Jean-François Lyotard spoke about the loss of meta-narratives, unified systems of meaning, which previously set a common system of coordinates for understanding the world. In the postmodern era, each person constructs his or her own reality. Even in love, according to Slavoj Žižek, there is always a share of misunderstanding and mismatch between the subjective worlds of the lovers. A complete merging of the self and the other is impossible. Moreover, the modern world is characterized by a huge variety of cultures, subcultures, lifestyles, and value systems. The farther apart people are in social, cultural, and value space, the more difficult it is for them to find a common language and truly understand the life experience of their opponent. This creates enormous difficulties for empathy.
May misfortunes and sufferings purify and harden our souls, so that we, having drunk the bitter cup of trials, may finally taste the true sweetness of human happiness.
Contrast and contradiction play a role in the human experience of happiness and fullness of being. One argument has to do with the fact that contradictions and difficulties are an integral part of human life. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, "Out of a life in which there is nothing but joys would grow a solid protest against life." We find a similar idea in the outstanding psychologist Viktor Frankl, the creator of logotherapy. In his work, Man's Search for Meaning, he states that finding meaning is possible, even in the most tragic situations, if we look at them with the eyes of challenge and opportunity for growth. Taoist philosophy also recognizes the naturalness of the existence of opposites, light and shadow, pleasure and suffering in the nature of things. As stated in the Tao Te Ching, when everyone in the celestial empire recognizes that the beautiful is beautiful, the ugly also arises. Bertrand Russell, in his essay In Praise of Idleness, emphasized, the changes that cause alternation of happiness and grief constitute the main content of earthly life. Perhaps a perfect and frozen paradise would not be as joyful as one might imagine from the outside.
Let us strive with our souls for the providence of God, and in it let us find lasting joy amidst the vicissitudes of life and its seeming accidents. Oh, the contrasts of existence. Oh, the eternal confrontation of light and darkness, good and evil. How cruel, how inexorable you are in your clash in the human soul. Look, on the one hand, the greatest impulses to truth, love, and harmony. And on the other, the baseness of instincts, the lust of the flesh, self-interest, and selfishness. How can a human being accommodate such a blatant contradiction? The poor, torn heart. It longs for good, but it is steeped in evil. It believes in the sublime, but is seduced by the lowly. It loves wisdom, but is blinded by passion. Where to flee from these contrasts? To the wilderness, to feats of faith? But even there, vanity lurks. To sensuality, but the soul remains empty. Oh, the agony of bifurcation, longing for harmony in a world of contradictions. Show us, wise men, the way to reconcile these extremes. Reveal the secret of harmonizing the contrasts, so that man may be free from inner discord. Otherwise, he will perish in the abyss of chaos and despair, torn apart by the struggle of opposites. Give him support, give him hope in the midst of the raging ocean of existence.
Disease always comes from either excess or deficiency, that is, from a disturbance of balance. Hippocrates.
How often we take warmth for granted without truly appreciating it. We warm ourselves by the hearth, but the cold of indifference reigns in our souls. We do not know the agony of winter cold, when the body shivers from the bitter frost, and the breath is stifled by steam. But imagine a man forced to sleep outside in winter. How he longs for a morsel of warmth. How he blesses a ray of sunshine breaking through the clouds. For him, even a stinking back alley becomes a shelter, just to get away from the wind. In the same way, the soul must experience the coldness of alienation and loneliness to realize the grace of love and friendship, to experience betrayal in order to appreciate loyalty, to be humiliated in order to awaken compassion for others. The path to harmony lies through this pain of contrasts, and only by loving the darkness will we truly long for the light. By suffering hatred, we can realize love. So do not be discouraged, my friend. Let us go through the cold winter of our souls to feel the warmth of human fellowship in a new way, and let trials harden us so that we may appreciate the joys of being.
Only by losing everything, to the end do we gain life.
How sweet and bitter is this chance that plays with the destinies of men. Sometimes one sudden, unintentional word spoken can change a person's entire life. Think of the young man you met at the crossroads of life. Under different circumstances, he would have been lost in the maelstrom of the mundane and would have continued to live a meaningless and empty existence. But your few words opened new horizons for him, awakened his aspiration for higher goals. Or think of the friend of your youth. Did he not once utter an unceremonious phrase, not knowing that it would wound your heart forever? And wouldst thou not since then have avoided the path of aimlessness and lowliness if thy heart had been unharmed? Have you ever known a spouse whose accidental adultery turned a bright world into a nightmare of jealousy? Or a widow for whom the sudden death of her husband was the gateway to spiritual life? Oh, how thin is the line between happiness and misfortune. A single word, a single circumstance can elevate a soul to heaven or plunge it into the abyss of misery. So watch your thoughts and actions, man, for in the smallest thing lies great power, and know that nothing happens without a higher meaning. Every event tests you, revealing opportunities and choices invisible to the carnal eye. Strive to see its mysterious ways in the most random turns of fate. And if fate was willing to collide us, let this collision serve to the greater benefit of our confused souls on the way to the truth.